Okay, welcome back guys. This is my second tutorial for Premiere Pro. In the first tutorial we just went through setting up a new project in Premiere Pro and an explanation of sequences and how they work and how to set them up. Those were the main things that we did. So in this tutorial I'm just going to go through how to edit the footage and an explanation of the tools and the buttons in the Premiere Pro, and that will be all for this little tutorial. So at the end of the last tutorial we had our sequences. We had like 3 sequences, and so we imported some footage onto the timeline. So I've got my footage here, and so I can push play or space, on the keyboard. Cool. So just a brief little explanation of the timeline. So we've got at the top of the timeline here, we've got the video tracks. So these are all tracks here. At the moment there's 3, but you can have as many tracks as you want, and they're where you basically edit your video footage. You can make these as big as you want just by dragging the mouse over them, or you can make them smaller. And yeah, like I said, you can push play and you can play the footage. You can grab the playhead and scrub through the footage like that, just by holding down the mouse button and dragging it back and forward. And then on the bottom we've got the audio tracks. So V for video, and then down the bottom A for audio. So that's the audio tracks. Cool. So there's a few little buttons here. Most of these you're not going to use, but there is just on the side of the tracks there. So there is this one here, toggle track output. This is on the video track, so we can turn the track off and on basically by clicking that one. There's a little lock button, which basically locks the track, so you can't do any editing to it. And that's the same on the audio tracks as well. So it's got a lock button, and it's also got a mute button there, so you can just mute the track if you want to, so you don't want to hear any audio. And then if you've got lots of tracks, then you can use the solo track button, which basically it plays only the audio from that track. So which is useful for some instances where there's lots of different tracks. At the moment we've just got the one track. So like I said, we can scrub through the footage. We can bring our mouse over the end of a piece of footage and it turns to a little red bar like that, and we can shrink the clip like that, or we can extend it. So that basically shrinks or extends the end of the clip, and you can do the same at the start of the clip as well. So like that. And that's basically how we edit stuff, is we're basically cutting up pieces of footage and putting them together into a sequence that looks pleasing to our eyes. So I'm just going to grab another piece of footage. So I've got this sort of tilt up shot, and then I'm going to grab this one here. So we can double click on that footage, see it up here, and we can drag it onto the timeline if we want. Now that's quite a long shot. Down the bottom of our timeline there, we've got this little bar here. We can hold that down and we can zoom in and out of the timeline like that. But we can also push the plus or minus key on the keyboard. So plus or minus, which will do the same thing, zoom in and zoom out. And we can shrink this clip because it's quite a long clip there. And when we're working in editing, I'm just going to mute the audio track there, we're always working with time limits, so it's important to think about the duration of your shots and the pace of the shots and how they flow together. So if I just play those 2 shots there, and we can see we've done a basic edit, right, of just 2 shots. Now a couple of things to note: if you drag you can drag the video clips around on the timeline, put them wherever you want, and you can also drag them over the top of each other like that. So whichever one is on the top is the one that's going to get played up here. So we're viewing, up here is where we're viewing what we're playing. Now of course this track is not muted, so I'm going to push the mute button. That's what we're hearing while we're hearing the audio. Cool. And if I just drag this over the top of a piece of footage, another piece of footage, it will just delete that footage from that point. Okay, and that's basically how we edit stuff. Is I'm just going to push Control Z to go back, so Control Z, or yeah, or on a PC it is the Windows button. Sorry, Windows. Yeah, it's the Windows button and Z, or Control Z, depending on what type of keyboard you've got. But that goes back, so it goes back one step at a time by pushing Control Z or Windows Z. So just pushing play, and that's basically how we edit. Is we're just putting shots onto the timeline and putting them together into a sequence that looks pleasing. So just shrinking stuff, moving it around, and making it look good, basically. So a couple little things I'm going to just talk about quickly: inputs and outputs. So let's get another piece of footage. So I'm going to grab this one here, double click on it, and it appears up here in our viewing source window. So I'm going to use a input and output on this. So let's say I want the shot to start. So if I just play the shot, and I want it to start from, say, here, for example, then I can hit I on the keyboard, and that will put in I, and that will put in a what's called an input. And then I go, okay, well, I just want this part of the shot, so I'm just going to go I for puts an input there, and O for output, and then you can extend the inputs and outputs. That's the output there, that's the input. And then when I grab the shot, so I can either just grab it like that, and it will bring it onto the timeline. It will only bring in onto the timeline what is inside the input and the output, which is useful, right? So I'm just going to go Control Z or Windows Z and go back. Now, a couple little buttons here. If you click this button here, the drag all video only, it will drag just the video of the shot and not the audio. And if you click the audio, it does the same for the audio. So audio, video. Now the audio from this shot is not so good, so I just basically don't want any of the audio because it's very noisy and windy. And then we've got our shot, and it's only the shot, the part of the shot from within the inputs and the output, which is useful, right? So then you're just dragging in what you need instead of just dragging in the whole shot. So a little explanation of these tools here. I'll start with these ones. So this button here is the linked selection button, and if you click that, don't just click it once, it goes white, and that means that you can select the audio from the track that separates the two tracks, the audio and the video. And if you click on the audio track and hit the delete key or back key on the keyboard, it will delete the footage of the audio. Sorry, it will delete the audio. So the audio is really bad, so I want to just not have any audio because this is going to be a montage to some music. So then I can just select all the audio and just go, okay, I'm just going to delete all the audio because it's not very good anyway. So there we go. So that's what the link selection button does. I'll just go Control Z to bring that back. And if you move these around, they will move independently of the audio. And when you do move them around, it will come up with this little red square or rectangle with a number in it, and that's basically saying this is out of sync with the audio. So the audio and the video is out of sync now, and that's how much is out of sync by 7 seconds. So that's what that means. So yeah, I'll just delete my audio again. Oh, and if I go Control Z, just a quick explanation. If you click the link selection button again, it will link the two tracks back together. There we go. So that's the link selection button. Just delete my audio. Then we've got this one here, which is the snap in timeline. So basically that turns the snapping feature off on the editing in the timeline. So when we're moving our clips around, I'll just turn it back on actually, on the timeline, it will actually, they will snap together. If you bring them close to each other, they will just sort of snap together. If you turn this off, they will not snap together. They will just go straight over the top of each other like that. So they won't snap. So useful. The snap tool is useful for when you don't want to just delete over the top of your footage. But sometimes you want to do some fine editing. So if I go like push the plus button and I want to move it really close and I want to do some really fine cutting with the edit with my tools, I might want to turn that off, because sometimes the snap feature can be a little bit annoying if you're trying to do some really fine cutting. That's where you might turn that off. So that's the snap tool. Then we've got this one here, insert overwrite sequences is next one, and that's a little bit more advanced, so I'm just going to leave that one for now. We've got add marker, we can add markers as well to footage, but I'm just going to, so you can add a marker to a piece of footage if you want, just with that button there. And you can put it on the timeline and you can move it around if you want. And you can even click on it and add some info about it if you want to. I don't tend to use markers a lot though, so I wouldn't worry too much about them. This one here is the timeline display settings, which you can choose. You can change that. There's a few different things you can change and customize about it there. So yeah, that's the timeline settings for that one there. And then I'll just go through some of these tools down the side here. So actually maybe I'll just stop there, because it's actually quite a long video already, and then I'll get into the tools in the next tutorial. Okay, so thank you for that, and I'll see you guys soon.